So we can, this morning, we can sing a song in gratitude, number 14. If you have a song sheet, the sheet of paper, the schedule in the back, we have number 14, okay?
In gratitude, you have watered seas of love in me. In gratitude, I will water seas of love in someone too. I know you're there for me, and I am so happy. In gratitude, you have watered seas of love in me. In gratitude, I will water seas of love in someone too. And when you suffer some, please call and I will come. In gratitude, you have watered seas of love in me. In gratitude, I will water seas of love in someone too.
So we sing the song number 10, A Great Big Smile.
Number 10, Great Big Smile. I am a bird,
I am a
a beautiful bird.
a beautiful bird.
I am the sun,
I am the
the golden sun.
the golden sun.
I am the wind,
I am the wind
blowing in. A beautiful bird in the sun. We are one in a wonderful world.
In the wonderful world,
I am a seed,
I am a seed,
a tiny seed.
a tiny seed.
I am the rain,
I am the rain,
gentle rain.
gentle rain.
I am a stream,
I am a stream,
carrying
carrying
tiny seed in the rain as we change in the wonderful world.
the wonderful world.
I am a note,
I am a note,
a simple note.
a simple note.
I am a song,
I am a song,
a peaceful song.
a peaceful song.
I am a
I
child,
am a child,
a great big
with
smile.
a great big smile. I
Am a note in a song, sing along in a wonderful world.
a wonderful world.
One more time, okay. Huh? Too quick, we do slower, okay? We ask
Too weak.
too weak. Okay, everybody need to. Who know this song? If you know this song, say louder. And who don't know this song, just say less loud.
Already.
And then second time we sing all together, okay? So we do the singing and this morning up here we do I am a bird and you guys I am a bird, beautiful bird, a beautiful bird. And then the last sentence will be the beautiful bird in the sun we are one in the wonderful world. We do together, okay? Yeah.
Here. I am a bird.
I am a bird,
A beautiful bird.
a beautiful bird.
I am the sun.
I am the sun,
The golden sun.
the golden sun.
I am the wind.
I am the wind
Blowing in.
blowing in
The beautiful bird in the sun. We are one in a wonderful world.
in the wonderful world.
I am a seed.
Am a seed,
A tiny seed.
a tiny seed.
I am the rain.
I am a rain,
Gentle rain.
gentle rain.
I am a stream.
I am a stream carrying
The tiny seed in the rain as we change in the wonderful world. I am a note,
am a note,
a simple note.
a simple note.
I am a song,
I am a song,
a peaceful song.
a peaceful song.
I am a
I
child,
am a
a
child,
great big smile.
great big smile.
I am a note in a song, sing along in a wonderful world.
In the wonderful world. There is a song we call the Really Happiness. It's a happiness song, classic one, but this one is like more happiness. We call the Whenever I Wake Up, I Feel Happy. Where my eyes, I feel happy. Aware of my health, I feel happy, okay? Because I have learned to look deeply. So we have movements also, we do some movements, and whenever I walk, I feel happy. Whenever I sit, I feel happy. Whenever I rest, I also feel happy. Because I have learned to look deeply, okay?
Whenever I wake up, I feel happy. Aware of my eyes, I feel happy. Aware of my health, I feel happy. Because I have learned to look deeply. Whenever I walk, I feel happy. Whenever I sit, I feel happy. Whenever I rest, I feel happy. Because I have learned to look deeply.
One more time. Whenever I wake up,
I feel happy. Aware of my eyes, I feel happy. Aware of my health, I feel happy. Because I have learned to look deeply. Whenever I walk, I feel happy. Whenever I sit, I feel happy. Whenever I rest, I feel happy. Because I have learned to look deeply.
whenever I walk,
I feel happy.
whenever I sit,
I feel happy.
whenever I rest,
I feel happy.
because I have learned
to look deeply.
Thank you so much. But I don't know, is that all monastics here? Yeah? Okay, good. So thank you for singing together. I think we would like to invite all monastic siblings. Please come up here for chanting before Dharma talk.
the Sangha this morning, we will chant the praising the three jewels and Kamlo. Praising the three jewels on page 9 and Kamlo on page 3.
Contemplation before chanting. The Sangha is invited to come back to our breathing so that our collective energy of mindfulness will bring us back together as an organism, going as a river with no more separation. Let the whole Sangha breathe as one body, chant as one body, listen as one body, and transcend the boundaries of a delusive self, liberating from the superiority complex, inferiority complex, and the equality complex.
The Buddha truth shines infinitely, enlightened for countless lifetimes. The beauty and stability of Buddha sitting is seen in mountains and rivers. How splendid is the Vulture Peak, how beautiful the light that shines forth from Buddha's brow, illumining the six God paths. To the Naga Pushpa assembly, we will go to continue the true teachings and practices. We take refuge in the Buddha, ever present. The Dharma truth is infinitely lovely, the precious words of Buddha, like fragrant flowers floating down from the heavens. The wonderful Dharma is plain to see. It is recorded luminously in free transparent baskets from generation to generation, handing down in 10 directions, so that today we can see our way. We vow to learn with all our heart. We take refuge in the Dhamma, ever present. The Sangha truth is infinitely precious, a field of merit and good seeds. The three robes and begging bowl are symbols of freedom. concentration and insight, support each other in mindfulness day and night. The Sangha helps and is the foundation for us to realize the fruit of meditation. With one heart we come home.
Children, come up close. Come sit up here. You can sit here. Anyone want to? Can anyone sit solid like a mountain? Yeah? Yeah, okay. Ezra, come. Can you sit up there? Maybe can you take your hat off? Okay, great, beautiful. We have a Buddha in the house. I have a little sack here. You guys know what this is? Anybody know what this is? Yeah? Yeah. It's not a mask. No, it's a shiny bag. One of my brothers gave this to me this morning. You know what's inside here? The rocks. It's the rocks. I have 4 pebbles in here. Any of you learned pebble meditation yet? Yeah, some of you? Okay, I've got 4 pebbles in here. Who remembers the breathing in, breathing out song? Yeah? Can you start it? Remember? Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. I am blooming. You make a flower? I'm blooming as a flower. Okay? I am fresh as a dew. I am fresh as the dew. I am solid as the mountain. I am firm as the earth. I am free. Okay, can you be free? I am free. Like that, okay? Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. I am water. Put your hand out. Water. Reflecting what is real. You can look at your hand. What is true. And I feel there is space deep inside of me. I am free, I am free, I am free. Wow, wonderful. Can we have some flowers for the children? Okay, maybe you can you turn this way so you can see me? Can everybody see me? Come closer. Come over here. Come closer. Okay, so I've got 4 pebbles, and after this, the monks and nuns, they will take you to find your own pebbles, okay? So you have to find the places in Blue Cliff where there's secretly hidden pebbles. I had to go find them this morning when I was looking around. Luckily, they put them, you know why they put these pebbles next to the house? Anybody know? Yeah? Because it looks like a mountain. That's a good answer. Yeah? Well.
They are a form of Earth and Mother Earth.
They're a form of Mother Earth, exactly, yeah. But why do they put a bunch of pebbles right next to where the edge of the roof is in the house? Does anybody know? Ezra, you know? No? Anybody guess? To make us feel connected to the earth. These are wonderful answers. There's also a reason is because the rain runs off the roof. And what happens if it hits the mud? It splatters everywhere, exactly. And so they like to put the pebbles next to the house so that the rain runs into the pebbles and then seeps into the earth below. So I found these pebbles next to the house where the brothers live. Okay, so we have 4 pebbles. Does anyone know what the first pebble is? We just sang it in the song, yeah? Mountain. This is the mountain. Yeah, what's the first one? This is the water one. Yeah? Flower. Thank you. Flower. Right? Remember, I am blooming as a flower. Can everyone show your flower? Show your flower. Okay. Yeah. Oh wow, that's a beautiful flower. It's got a stamen and everything. It's beautiful. Okay. You know, when I was outside my room, there are a bunch of sunflowers, beautiful sunflowers, and on the sunflowers there were bumblebees. There were bumblebees, and you know what the bumblebees were doing? Yeah. They were taking pollen. Yeah, they were sticking they have a kind of proboscis, and a beak. It's not exactly a beak, but they call it proboscis, and they stick it in, and they get the nectar, right? But the pollen that's on the flower, it rubs up against their legs, and they have kind of hairy legs, and so it sticks to them. And then what happens when they fly to another flower? Yeah, the pollen goes off, and that's how they pollinate the other flowers, exactly. So the bees are helping us to have a diversity of flowers, a diversity of genes in the flowers. So I was watching is there a funny noise? I'll try this pocket. Okay, maybe if I put it out here, it's better. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Okay, great. I'll put it out here so. Yeah, so I was watching the bumblebee flying from one flower to the next, and I remember the practice of fresh as a flower. So to the bee, the colors of the sunflower are just so beautiful, so attractive. It just can't resist going and sticking its nose into the nectar in the sunflower. So as a practitioner, we practice to be fresh as a flower. Does anyone know what that means? What is it like to be fresh as a flower? Yeah? You forgot the answer. What do you think it means? Yeah? Oh, Ezra, okay. Yeah, being open and not just sticking to one thing or your own idea, right? You can kind of be fresh. So, you know, as a child, one of the greatest gifts you can give your parents is to be fresh as a flower. You know, sometimes our mom or our dad, or our mom and our dad and dad, they go working all day long. And we don't, when they come home, we don't have any money to give them. Maybe we don't know how to cook yet, so we can't cook for them. But something you can always offer is your freshness. When they come through the door, you can say, "Hello, mommy. Hello, daddy," and smile. Have you ever done that? Yeah, I know Ezra's done that. I've been to his house. Yeah, what's another way you can be fresh like a flower? By hugging them. Yeah. Yeah, what else?
By helping them take in the groceries.
Helping them take in the groceries. Excellent. Yeah. What other ways? Yeah? Helping them to take out the garbage. Wow, these are all great answers. Okay, so let's sit up beautifully like a Buddha, like a queen or a prince. You can sit. And we're going to practice the meditation on being fresh as a flower, okay? So you don't have a pebble yet. I have the pebble, but you can imagine you have a pebble in your hand. So you can put your hand, you can put the pebble in your left hand, and then your right hand in your lap like this, and then you can close your eyes a moment. Breathing in, I see myself as a flower. Breathing out, I feel fresh like a flower. Flower, fresh. listen to the bell. Okay, how many of us feel more fresh? You raise your hand? Yeah? You feel more calm? Who feels more calm? Me too. Yeah. I felt a little bit nervous with all these kids up here. But now I feel very calm. Yeah. Okay. The second pebble, we already learned. What's the second pebble? Yeah? Mountain. Excellent. I'm solid like a mountain. Can we make a solid mountain with our hands? I'm solid like a mountain. Excellent. You know, did anyone notice that there was a big storm last night? Where did the storm come from? Yeah? The water, yeah. Huh? The clouds, yeah. But did anyone notice which direction it came from? No? Is anyone looking up? Yeah? That's right. Over there. Over there. Wow, this storm is coming from every direction. That way. Okay. Okay, well, I was looking up. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so because we're in the, generally from here, coming from the west, right? So it was coming, and the mountain over there is the Shawangunk Ridge. All the dark clouds, they massed up. And they kind of came very threatening over the mountain. And then they came rolling down the hill, and with lightning. It was very exciting. What's that? Who did anyone sleep in the meditation hall after the storm? Yeah? Because your tent was so wet. Yeah. The power went out, yeah. But then it came back on. This is very exciting. It was only a generator. Well, I mean, there's only generators everywhere. So my question is, did the mountain move? The mountain didn't move, right? Even the storm was so powerful, so strong, but the mountain stayed solid. Yeah. So this is the quality of the mountain. If we know how to practice to be solid like a mountain, even when we have very strong emotions like anger. Anyone ever feel very angry? Raise your hand. Is there somebody who hasn't ever felt angry? Wow, I want to learn from you. And what do you usually do when you're angry? Yeah? Be aggressive, exactly. Yeah, you feel like your life is threatened. What else do you do?
I take 3 deep breaths.
You take
3 deep breaths.
very deep breaths. Wow, you're a good practitioner. Or more. Oh, wow. Excellent. Wow, I didn't do that when I was a kid. Yeah? You sometimes cry, yeah. Yeah, Ezra? You, where you're, right, okay, you notice it and you take a break from what you think you're angry at, right? Excellent. Wow, we have so many good practitioners here. You know, when I was angry, I would do one of two things. I would go away and just sulk, get angry. Or I would just scream and yell, "It's not fair!" So I was not a very good practitioner as a child. You're so lucky you got to come to Blue Cliff and learn how to breathe, huh? You run around in circles, yeah. Yeah. I knew a monk, and he would drive his car around an empty parking lot really fast in circles. Yeah. You lay down on the ground and you just stay there for 20 minutes. Oh, you want to stay there. But then you need to get up again. Yeah. Okay, so So we've learned already some good ways to deal with our anger. And so if we practice to be solid like a mountain, we can be like the mountain in the storm. So when the storm of our anger comes, we know it's there. Yeah, we know it's there, but we don't get carried away or overwhelmed by our anger. So we can sit solidly in the mountain. We can take refuge. We can notice those solid elements in our body and just come back to them. So let's sit beautifully like a Buddha. And we'll practice being solid like a mountain. Breathing in. You can put our hands in our lap. Breathing in. I see myself as a mountain. Breathing out. I am solid like a mountain. Mountain. Solid. Wow, I feel like I'm sitting in the Rocky Mountains with all these mountains around me. It's wonderful. Okay, and then after we practice with the second pebble, we can put it down. So we've got so remember the first pebble? What's the first pebble? Flower, right. And the second pebble? Mountain. And the quality? Solid, yeah. Very good. Okay. So now we'll take the third pebble. This pebble is very interesting. It's been sliced in half. So it's very flat on one side. Water, that's right. Still water. This is a water pebble. So we're still in water. And what is the quality of the water? Yeah? Reflecting what is true and what is real. Wow. I think sitting up there is affecting you. He's ready to give a Dhamma talk. So we have this quality of the still water, that it reflects everything. Did you ever look into the water and see yourself? Yeah? What else did you see? What else did you see when you looked in the water? Yeah? Yeah, if someone's with you, you see them as well. What else do you see? Yeah? Wow, everything in the space of the water at an angle. It's displaced by the surface tension. Yeah, wow, excellent. Okay, what else? What else do you see? Well, what do you see behind you when you're looking in the water? Yeah? Well, you see the water, yes. What do you see reflected? No? Nothing else? How about the clouds? Do you see the clouds? There are clouds in the sky. You see the sky? Sometimes we see the trees. Yeah. So the quality of the still water is it reflects things just as they are, right? Yeah? You see leaves. Ah, that's right. Yeah, you can see the leaves on the trees. You can also see, sometimes you see the reflection, but you also see down to the bottom of the water. Sometimes you see the leaves and the fish that are swimming. So when our mind is calm like the water, we can see things clearly. So you understand what is happening in your mind. So when anger arises, you realize, oh, there's a reason that anger arises. Maybe because, like Ezra was saying, you're thinking about that thing and you don't take a break from it, and it keeps feeding your thinking, feeding your emotions. And then the anger becomes stronger and stronger. So if we have the quality of still water, our mind reflects things just as they are, and we don't continue to feed our anger. Okay, so let's practice to be still like water. Okay, so sit beautifully like a prince. We can smile to our parents and close our eyes, and we imagine we have the water pebble in our hand. Breathing in, I see myself as still water. Breathing out, I reflect things just as they are. Still water, reflecting. So you can look in your mind, see what's going on. Do I feel happy, joyful? Is there some irritation? Excellent. Thank you. I'm ready to go swimming in all this still water. Okay, so we put the water pebble down. Okay, let's review again. The first pebble, flower. What's the quality of the flower? Fresh as a flower. It can be fresh, yeah. And the second pebble, mountain. What's the quality of the mountain? It's solid, right? It's not carried away by our strong emotions. And the third pebble is water. And the quality of the water? Yeah? Reflecting, yeah, what is real and true. And when we sing the song, we look at our hands, right? Can you look at your hand? Your hand. Practice looking into your hand. When we say what is real and what is true, we look into our hand. It's very interesting. You know, when you look deeply into your hand, what do you see? What do you see in your hand? Yeah? Your palm lines, yeah? What else do you see? Yeah? You see your hand. Wow, that's a very deep answer. Yeah? Ezra, what do you see? You see blood vessels, that's right. Yes. You know, if you look deeply, if you practice looking deeply into your hand, do you know you can see your mother's hand? Did you know that? How can you do that? You say, no, my mother's over there. How can I see her hand when I'm looking into my hand? You say, this monk is crazy. But when we practice looking deeply, just like when we look into the still water, we see that actually there's nothing but our mother's and father's hands in our own hand. Without our mother and our father, our hand cannot be. Right? This hand is coming from our mother and from our father. So whenever I feel a little bit lonely, and you know, when I was a kid, I don't know about you, but when I was sick, you know what my mother would do? She would come into my room and sit down next to my bed and put her hand on my forehead to feel if I had a fever. Did you ever have your mom or your dad do that? Yeah? And how do you feel when she puts her hand on your forehead? Yeah? It feels warm. It feels cold. Warm, yeah. Okay. How does it feel when your mom puts her hand on your forehead? Yeah? It feels good. That's right. It feels like somebody cares about you, right? Your mom loves you, your daddy loves you. So I felt like that when I was a kid. My mom would put her hand on my forehead, and I felt so cared for. I felt like it didn't matter. I felt so terrible inside because there was somebody who loved me and who really cared about me. So you know, now I don't live with my mom. So when I get sick, there's nobody to come and put their hand on my forehead. But luckily, because I can see my mom's hand in my hand, if I take my own hand, you try taking your own hand, okay, and put it on your forehead. And then just practice breathing. It feels like your mom's hand. You can see your mom is taking care of you. You can feel her love for you. She wants you to get better. She wants only the best things for you. Okay, wonderful. So that's a practice of deep looking into our hand. Okay, the last pebble. What's the last pebble? Huh? Space. That's right, space. And what's the quality of space? Everything changes and it's infinite. Good? Okay. What did anybody know in Pebble meditation? What is the quality of space? Do you know? I am free. Yeah, I am free. I am free. Exactly. Just like in the song. I am free. So space is a quality we can touch inside of ourselves and we feel so free. You see these flowers here? This beautiful flower and pine arrangement. Can everyone take a look? You see? What if I took all the flowers and the pine and I squished them together very tight? Would that be very beautiful? No. They feel all crowded and smelly and stinky. Right, so they have space, you see? So when every flower has space, you see we have a kind of onion, we have the sunflower. Wow, the sunflowers are right here and I didn't even notice it. But there's no bumblebee. And we have this, there was one bee, I'm sure, yeah. We've got a kind of like parsley of some sort. And we've got, does anyone know this one? Juniper, I think. And spruce. And we have some bark. And one of our brothers and sisters, I think one of the sisters, I'm not sure who did it, but they arranged this so beautifully. And this is Pachysandra. Wow, my mom loves Pachysandra. So each flower has its own space, right? We have the sunflower, we have some kind of parsley or carrot, we have spruce. And so we can enjoy the sunflower, we can enjoy the spruce, we can enjoy the juniper. So the same is true with our emotions, right? So usually when we feel angry, we just want to push the anger away. Go away, anger, right? You know, like it's very unpleasant to be angry, so you just want to push it away. But if we learn to be like a beautiful flower arrangement, we give everything its space, so including our anger. So we allow our joy and our happiness to have lots of space, but we also allow our anger, our fear, to have its rightful place in the beautiful flower arrangement of our emotions. And that's a practice of feeling space. Okay, so let's sit up beautifully, like a Buddha. And so we can close our eyes and notice what's going on inside. Maybe we feel some pleasant feeling. Maybe we feel a little bit of unpleasant feeling. But we allow all those to be present. See them just as they are. Breathing in, I see myself as space. Breathing out, I feel free. Space, free. Okay, we can open our eyes again. Okay. So one more time, we go through all the pebbles. The first pebble, flower. And the quality? Fresh. Excellent. I'll put it back in the bag. Second pebble, mountain. And what's the quality of the mountain? Solid, like a mountain. Third pebble, water. The quality of the water? Reflecting what is real and true. Okay, and the last pebble. And the quality of space? Freedom. Excellent. Okay. Who likes to take the pebble bag with you to go play outside? Okay. But before that, we'll just sing the song one more time, okay? Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing a flower. I am fresh as the dew. I am solid as a mountain. I am firm as the earth. I am free, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I am water reflecting what is real, what is true. And I feel there is space deep inside of me. I am free, I am free, excuse me. Thank you, dear children, for practicing pebble meditation. Okay, so with the small sound of the bell, we'll stand up and bow to our parents. Okay, you can join our palms. Join your palms. We bow. Be fresh as a flower. Okay, we'll see you soon. Enjoy your practice of pebble meditation. Thank you. Thank you, Ezra, for sitting like a Buddha. We invite everyone to come up and fill the front seats. If you're in the back, you can come and sit in the front. Yeah. Can you invite the teens as well? Okay. And the teens, could the teens also stand up? We're going to go out. If there are any teens here, you can go out with Brother Phap Jian. Please come up, if anyone. Please come up to the front. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to see. Thank you. So we'll listen to one sound of the bell and enjoy coming back to our body, come back to our breathing. We're still here, still together in the present moment with our Sangha. This is a wonderful moment. Present moment. Wonderful moment. Dear respected Thai, dear noble community of practitioners. So today is the 13th of August in the year 2023, and we're at Blue Cliff Monastery for our last session of going deeply into the Dhamma. Many parents, they come and ask us, when can I teach my child about death? feel like they have to pick the right time so they can understand, so the child can understand and not be overwhelmed by fear. And it's very interesting because when I am asked the question, when should I tell my child about death, I think, well, what are you going to tell them about death? For me, it's much more interesting to know what you're going to tell the child about death rather than worrying about when you should tell them about death. As a practitioner, as a student of the Buddha, I've learned that when we talk about death, it's actually just an idea. It's an idea that comes from our observation of loved ones who have passed away. And they're there, talking to us, smiling, eating with us, and then they're no longer breathing, no longer talking to us, no longer there. And so we think from something they've become nothing. And we have fear and anxiety when we think about our own death. And for some of us, we have more fear and anxiety thinking about the death of our loved ones, those who are very dear to us. We feel we can't imagine life without their presence. And a lot of our ideas about death also come from our experience of starting to become aware of being alive. Some of us have, there's some few of us who have perhaps memories of being in our mother's womb. But it's actually pretty rare that people remember. Some of us have memories, just brief swatches of memories of being a baby. But then somehow around 3 or 4 years old, we start to have this kind of coherent sense of consciousness that starts to be woven together into a kind of patchwork of memories that we see as the narrative of our life. And so when we look back into those that patchwork of memories in the past of our coming to be conscious of our own life, we feel that, now I am something, but before I was nothing. And so this is a very, very deep, kind of ingrained way of looking at birth and death that the teaching of the Buddha helps us to transform and overcome. The last time I was at Blue Cliff Monastery, we were going on a hiking trip, a mindful hiking retreat. There's a few participants who are here. We walked from right out the backyard, right where we went to do walking meditation in the Sisters' Hamlet, that beautiful path with all the moss covering it. There's another little hidden path that goes up the mountain. And so we came here, and then the next day we had about, I think, maybe 30 people, 25 people with backpacks, and we started a mindful walking retreat that lasted for 7 weeks and finished at the mall in Washington, D.C. So we walked from a place of spiritual power to a place of another kind of power. And one thing I remember, and every day we would have short practices, just short talks at the beginning of the day, maybe about 20 minutes. One of the Dharma teachers, the monastics, would share a little bit, and usually at the end of the week we would touch on this topic of what we learned from Sister Dee the other day of no birth, no death. And I found it very profound somehow to be teaching and learning about no birth and no death in the midst of the birth and death of the forest. All around us were the decaying leaves becoming soil, the rotting trunks of trees that had fallen down. Sometimes we would find the corpse of an animal. And so all around us was this constant cycle of transformation. The trees were, from the CO2 in the air and nutrients in the soil, were growing up and then eventually growing old and collapsing, and the carbon going back into the soil and other minerals. And the same of the insects, the birds, animals. And I felt very peaceful being in such a space. I felt, I didn't fear death. It's such a beautiful cycle of transformation in the forest. But somehow when I'm spending a lot of time inside boxes like this, in the meditation hall, it's a beautiful box. Or a lot of time on the screen. Then there's this fear and anxiety that I notice coming up inside of me. Like this narrative, this patchwork of memories from my childhood going forward to the present moment, which then I project forward into the future of how the rest of my life is going to go, because of course I know exactly how it's going to go, right? So this narrative which I've constructed, going backwards into the past and forward into the future, is threatened by only one thing, and that is death. And then I'm seized with fear and anxiety. Who will continue my Twitter account? Who will know the password to my email when I die? So we laugh when we say that, but these our email, our social media, all these things, they are kind of representations, signs of what's going on already in our mind. We get attached to our idea of a self. Are there any good markers out there? No, that's not going to work. Ah, okay. Can you see? Is that? Okay. We get cotton candy colors today. So my sister mentioned this one of the most ancient texts in the world, actually, is a golden scroll, which is, I think, in the British Museum. And I saw it when I was a young person living in London, of the Diamond Sutra. And Sister Dee shared the other day about one line from that sutra: where there is perception, there is deception. So it's a very beautiful text that our teacher wrote a very beautiful commentary about. So I highly recommend it. Called The Diamond That Cuts Through Illusion. It's one of the first books I read of Thai when I was just a lay practitioner. And there are 4 concepts that we tend to get caught in, and one of them is this idea of a self. So it's not the word, the self, but it's this kind of, what I said, this patchwork of memories, of ideas of what I am and what I am not. And it becomes very ingrained in the neural pathways of our nervous system, in our very flesh. And our body starts to take form around this idea of I am this and I am not this. Kind of grasping. And that projection back into the past and into the future is also in this narrative of self. And so when we feel fear and anxiety, is because something is not going according to plan. There's a kind of cognitive dissonance between our idea of who we are and the actual experience. We say something and somebody gets very angry. And then we think, no, but I'm a very kind person. It's not possible. This person could get angry at me. They must be wrong. You see, that's how our mind kind of readjusts. And we find ourselves in dissonance with our lived reality. So our concepts are kind of grasping at what we want to be, the image that we hold of ourselves, and the actual experience of life. And so this practice of mindfulness, at its very root, is actually learning how to harmonize this idea of inside and outside that we have. Like I have my inner life, and then there is the world outside. And the two are somehow disjointed. Ezra shared about when the light gets displaced in the water. It's kind of, you ever notice that? If you put a straw in a glass of water, and then it looks like the straw is like cut. So it's kind of like that. There's this kind of dissonance between our internal experience and our what's going on outside of us. People are yelling at us. They're getting upset at things we do, and we don't understand why. So there's this teaching that the Buddha gave, very, very ancient, early teaching in Buddhism. And I won't use too many old words, but this one I like very much. Yatha Bhuta. Bhuta is just like to be, or as they are. And yatha is according to things as they are. So it means the Dhamma is there to help us touch things just as they are. Not as we imagine them to be. So all of our hopes, all of our fears, all of our anxieties create a kind of distortion. And that distortion is what gives rise to most of our suffering. And so when we realize that, when we get that insight, then we want to have some kind of practice that helps us to harmonize, to bring that dissonance to an end, so that we can internally and externally be experiencing a wholeness. So we no longer have an idea of inside and outside. And we touch things just as they are. You get a direct perception. So all of these practices of breathing, mindful walking, really being present with our steps, eating a carrot and truly eating the carrot. Because it turns out when we study neuroscience that we tend to eat a kind of zombie carrot instead of the real carrot that is in our mouth that we're chewing. We might get the initial kind of burst of flavor and we're there for that initial sensation, but then our mind starts going off. As long as we don't bite on some like grain of sand or something that disturbs our reverie, we kind of go off imagining a zombie carrot. All the perceptions, it's an aggregate of all the carrots we've eaten before. Or if it's a dish, like we had pho the other day, and maybe you've had pho many times before. And so your mind starts to compare this bowl of pho to every other bowl of pho you've had before. Or the other day we had this kind of tofu with like it was like kind of sticky thing on the outside, and I don't think I've ever had that before. It was so delicious. And so we're always trying to make new dishes that are a little bit different so that it breaks you out of your reverie, so you're not caught in eating your zombie tofu. But you're like, wow, this is new. And so if you're a foodie, you try to find a new restaurant or a new something to break through that automatic eating habit that you have. So Thai actually trained us to, for example, take just a piece of old bread, like a kind of stale piece of bread. You know, in France they have baguettes. And the stale bread is not like rigid hard, but it's kind of a little bit chewy. Like it's almost like, it's tough like leather. And he would practice to take just a little bit of that bread and just chew that as eating meditation. And see how long he could chew it. Sometimes 40, 50 chews or longer. And there's still sugars that are coming out of that stale piece of bread. So he would invite us to do that. See if you can enjoy. That's to overcome our habit of trying to find new food, new things, always something new, in order to break out of our automatic eating habits. But rather just to take something very, very simple, like just a piece of stale bread, and see, can I enjoy every chew of this stale piece of bread? It's very lovely. I practice it. And you can chew sometimes 100 times a piece of really stale bread. And you still get like a little bit of sugars coming out of the bread, even on the 100th chew. So this is a practice of just simplifying our life and then seeing the wonder that is there in very simple things. That helps us to tame our seeking mind. So this is getting in touch with things as they are. So overcoming our automatic ways of doing things. When we are caught in this narrative, then it's very easy to just live our life on automatic mode. We decide our career, we decide the person we want to live our life with, we have a family, children, and then it seems like we just have to go through the motions for the rest of our life. Be a good mother, be a good father, then be a good grandparent. And in all these social situations, we just have to play the role. But if we find ourselves doing that, we find we perhaps don't have happiness. We don't have joy. We wonder, is this all that there is in life? So when we're caught in the story of our life, then we can end up in a kind of dead end like that, where we feel like we have a life, but we don't know how we got this life. It's like we're walking through it like a zombie, just like eating the zombie carrot. We're just going through the motions. We've seen that this is what everyone else does, so we just kind of go along and we do that, just like everyone around us. So and even as a monk or a nun, we can get caught in that. mean, becoming a monk or a nun is a pretty revolutionary thing, especially in American society. So I always want to give all my support and love and care to my brothers and sisters when they want to take this step, because it's really not evident to become a monk or a nun. But if we're not careful, even as a monk or a nun, we can just follow along a set pathway. We see our older brothers and sisters, and they did it like that, and then we just do it like they did. But somehow we might not feel that joy, like genuine joy, kind of radiant joy inside of ourselves in the way we live our life. And that may be because we're caught in our idea of what it is to be a monk or a nun, or we're caught in our idea of what it means to be a mother or a father, or this or that, a lawyer, a doctor. So that's what the place like Blue Cliff is here for. Because here you don't have to be a professor or a lawyer or a doctor or, well, you do have to be a monk or a nun, I guess. But we're not caught. We give a space and time and everything, all the conditions you need to eat, to sleep, so you don't have to worry. You don't have to think about, what am I going to eat this afternoon? Where am I going to sleep tonight? So you have this chance, like, to feel open, like space, free, to allow yourself to go in new directions, to suddenly walk down a path you might not ever have taken before. And that's what the monasteries, the role that they've played for thousands of years as well in Asia, Buddhist monasteries. It's a place where we could go for refuge. So this morning, the monks and nuns, we chanted praising the three jewels. We call the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha three jewels. It's so precious. And we go to them for refuge. So whenever we feel fear or anxiety, it means we think about the Buddha. And that brings us solidity, peace. We know we can come back to our breathing. Like this morning, I was going around to some of my brothers and said, what should I talk about today in the Dhamma talk? I just feel, okay, I don't know what to talk about, so I'll just absorb this or that. And one of my brothers just said, you don't need to talk. Let the Buddha talk. I was like, okay, that's much easier. You know, many of you know the story when Thai was in Korea, and 2003, I think, and Thai was a kind of superstar monk in Korea, and so when Thai went out into the streets of Seoul to do walking meditation, there are all these cameras in front of him, and Thai could not even see where he could take one step to practice walking meditation. Thai knew he was supposed to lead the walking meditation, but he could not take even one step with all these television cameras in front of him. And he said to himself, Buddha, I give up. I cannot practice walking meditation. I need to let you do it for me. So he said, Buddha, let the Buddha walk. I don't need to walk. And then suddenly, he could take a step and another step. And that became a very famous poem. I let the Buddha walk. I don't need to walk. I let the Buddha sit. I don't need to sit. And it can even work with a Dhamma talk. I can let the Buddha talk. I don't need to talk. It's much easier to let the Buddha give a Dhamma talk. It's stressful if you think like, oh, I have to give a Dhamma talk. Especially the last one. I was telling Brother Phop Koi, you got off easy. You get to do the first Dhamma talk. I have to attend every activity of the retreat so I don't miss anything. I have to pay attention and take notes, all the Dhamma talks. But if I just let go and just let the Buddha talk, I don't need to talk. It's so much easier. And it sounds funny, but there's something there. It means that we have this kind of innate nature to be compassionate and understanding. But if we let ourself get in the way, it's like an obstacle. It's like a giant boulder which just blocks the flow of the stream. And so we train ourselves to let go of this idea of ourself. Just like today, we experience many young people and old people of all ages becoming free of the idea of what it means to be a man, free of what the idea, the social construct of what it is to be a woman. Because these narratives have continued so strongly and created so much damage and pain throughout many, many generations. And so we let go of that self-idea, that obstacle. We say, do we really need to have these rigid ideas about what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman? Or can we allow ourselves to let go of these ideas, to open ourselves to the present moment and see what it is just to be a compassionate person, to be an understanding person, to be a loving person, with eyes open and with the heart open, without any obstacle. This is a very deep meditation, and I feel deeply that this is what we need to realize at a collective level. Many of us have a lot of fear and anxiety around the climate emergency. The planet is heating up, and we know why it's heating up. I don't need to go through all the statistics and details. I think there's enough of that out there, right? And it can be very easy for us, like we learned the other day, to blame ourselves or to blame human beings. But we also know that there's a lot of goodness, intelligence, and possibility. When we experience openness like that, when we feel we can let go of our idea about what it is to be a human being, for example, actually we experience a lot of freedom. And we see that everything is possible. Humans have, for sure, out of our greed, out of our need for pleasurable experiences, to live comfortably, we have created a situation of catastrophic climate change. But we also have the intelligence to transform that situation. Actually, we know what to do. There are a lot of things we don't know what to do, but this we know what to do. We know how we need to live more simply. We know we need to change our ways of moving around, or ways of eating. We have ways of dealing with this difficulty. So the problem is not a technical one. The problem is one of consciousness, of our mind. And that is what we are doing with the Plum Village tradition. That's what we're doing here with Blue Cliff. We're trying to bring about what Thai called a collective awakening. The word Buddha means awaken. And this is not a theoretical idea. It's very practical. So it's based in our mindful walking, our mindful breathing, our mindful eating, our loving speech and deep listening. Because we know that an individual awakening is not enough. When the Buddha got this insight in himself, he went straight away to those who had a deep understanding already. He wanted to share it with others for the benefit of other people. That is the action of a bodhisattva. Bodhisattva is a kind of awakened being. someone who works for their own benefit and also for the benefit of others. And so we actually are bodhisattvas. Now that you've been on this week retreat, you have the basic qualifications of a bodhisattva. You don't have a certificate, it's okay. I'll read something from the Diamond Sutra. So there's the Diamond Sutra is a discourse between the Buddha and the Venerable Subhuti, who was renowned for his practice of meditation in the forest. And Subhuti approaches the Buddha and says, "World-honored one, if sons and daughters of good families want to give rise to the highest, most fulfilled, awakened mind, what should they rely on? And what should they do to master their thinking?" This is a very deep question because we go to university, we study in school. Everybody's trying to get like that idea, that idea which is going to revolutionize everything. Like, can I build a ambient temperature or room pressure superconductor, for example? It will transform everything. The electrical grids will transmit electricity without any heat, right? Or can we make nuclear fusion so we have energy, all the energy that we need? Everybody wants to find that idea that's going to transform society. But there are very few people who want to transform their own heart, their own way of living, their own attitude. And that's where most of the problems are. We might get room temperature superconductors. We might get nuclear fusion and still have very angry people, very unhappy people, very jealous and competitive people. And then what kind of world is that to live in? Do we want our children to live in that world? So by coming together and practicing together with the monks and nuns, just seeing the smile of one of the nuns who's cooking, or when we work on our working meditation, the kind words of one of the monks carrying, helping us to carry the water bin, that is collective awakening. This is very concrete, not theoretical. Right? It means our smile is a way of transmitting our peace, of building this collective awakening. When Thai met with Martin Luther King Jr. for the last time, many of you know the story. It was in Geneva, in Switzerland, and Thai was delayed because they were asking him many questions in the lobby of the hotel. And then Thai went up, and he was very touched because Dr. King had kept the breakfast warm for him, even though Thai was late. I love that part of the story because there's so much caring, so much love in that. Here are two bodhisattvas, and they're not caught up in their idea about themselves. Someone who's caught up in their fame and their power, they do not keep the breakfast warm personally for the other person. That is the act of a bodhisattva. Those are the caring eyes of our brothers and sisters. When you're working, when you're eating, when you're walking around the monastery, when the children are playing. Yesterday I was sitting with an old friend by the monk's residence, and we were talking about how to generate joy. And then Tai Si Q and Brother Phap Trien walked by, and Brother Phap Trien was carrying this huge mattress, and it was kind of flopping around. And Tai Si Q waved to me, and I just thought, it's so easy to be joyful in the monastery. Here, there are some monks and nuns who just showed up as guests. And here, is my brother, who I know does so much work to build Magnolia Grove Monastery. Two of my brothers, who are just smiling and carrying a mattress, flopping around from one house to the other house. It's so simple. This is collective awakening. It's not something complicated. It's just sharing our joy, knowing how to and especially knowing how to take care of our difficult emotions, so we don't transmit those emotions. It doesn't mean we suppress or hide. We recognize them, just like we learned in the pebble meditation. Still water, reflecting. We see the emotion, space, free. And just like the flower, we allow the anger to be a full citizen in our consciousness. Because when someone is a full citizen, we listen to them. We don't treat them like a slave or like somebody who's a reject that we want to banish from society. We have to listen to the citizens. This is how we reinstate a democracy within our own body and mind. We allow all of our emotions to be full citizens in our consciousness. Because then we understand why. When the anger is there, it's for a reason. It's not random. Our body, our mind is telling us something. And so we need to take care of that anger and understand why it's arising. So that time when Thai met Martin Luther King for the last time, Dr. King talked to Thai about what he called the beloved community. And a few months later, when Dr. King was assassinated, Thai became very ill. Thai wrote in his journal, "America can create Dr. King, but it cannot keep Dr. King." Very strong words, very deep words. And Thai made a deep vow in himself to continue to build Dr. King's vision of the beloved community. And that has been Thai's work. At that point, Thai came to the West to speak out about the situation of the war in Vietnam, to be a voice for the people who did not want this war to happen. But thanks to Dr. King's vision of creating beloved community, Thai went inside himself and he saw that even though he was exiled and cut off from his community in Vietnam, that he could continue with this vision of another bodhisattva and continue to build the beloved community. And that is how we go on. We don't get caught in this body, these feelings, our idea of ourself, but we see that we are part of a process. If one of us dies, we carry on the work of the other bodhisattvas. So we don't fear. That's why the monks and nuns are so happy. Our greatest happiness is to die in the Sangha. To die surrounded by our brothers and sisters is the greatest gift. Because we don't have any fear, because we know that we have a continuation, that we are continuing to build together this beloved community. And so we practice, we experience non-fear. We don't get caught anymore in this body and think, oh, when this body passes away, that I won't be anymore. Because we know we continue on to our speech. So Thai is for me, he's the greatest teacher, but he's a great teacher. And he's given us this beautiful community. Everywhere we look, when we look into the eyes of the monastics, the lay students of Thai, we see some aspect of a bodhisattva. Now, as monks and nuns, we look around at each other and we see different aspects of Thai in each other. So it's very fun. You get to see, oh, right. Somehow, when you listen to a Dhamma talk, then you absorb certain things, and we tend to think that's the practice. But then it's very interesting when we start to share with each other, well, your idea of the practice is a little bit different from my idea of the practice, is different from your idea of the practice, because we all receive slightly different things. Those teachings that Thai gave us, they helped us. Where we were in our own path, with our own suffering, that antidote, that Dhamma door, helped us in our path. And so we remember it deeply. And so when I listen to my brother and my sister give the Dhamma talk, I see that the qualities of Thai that help them to heal. And that is Thai's continuation. So nothing is lost. Thai love to quote Lavoisier, who is the founder of modern chemistry. Rien ne se crée, rien ne se perd. Nothing is created, nothing is lost. This is in around the time of the French Revolution, 1780, 1790, Lavoisier. Somehow it's very beautiful in French. It's a little bit more beautiful. Rien ne se crée. Rien ne se perd. This is, rien is nothing, created and lost. Nothing is created, nothing is lost. So he learned as he studied chemical reactions that there was a balance. And usually when we felt that something was lost or something was created, it was because we didn't actually understand the bigger picture. All the things that came in and the things that came out. And now we know this principle extends itself around the universe. That we actually always can account for the energy or the mass. With relativity, we learn that mass and energy are of a similar nature. They're like two ways of looking at similar kind of thing. And so the same is true of our actions. So our thoughts, our speech, our bodily actions, they continue. And this is the deep insight of the Buddha. This is why we train ourselves in mindfulness, because we want to bring that awareness to our thinking, to our speech, and to our actions. We want to produce the most beautiful thoughts. The thoughts that can bring compassion and understanding into the world, more love into the world. And so we want to take a lot of care with our thoughts. We want to take a lot of care with our speech, because also we know that our speech is connected to our thinking. And our bodily actions are connected to our thinking. So the Buddha was a revolutionary. He went right inside the mind. He didn't have the tools of modern psychology. He didn't have the big MRI machines or complicated instruments. He just used his own body and mind and insight, looking in, calming his mind and observing for himself. This is why I feel the Buddha was a true scientist. He's actually looking at his own mind and trying out different things, understanding what gives rise to anger. This is something we all need to do. It's not enough for me to just tell you. You have to observe for yourself. You have to sit with your anger and allow it to be there. Breathe with it and hold it like a crying child. I often use the image of a mother cradling the child that's crying to understand the suffering of that child. Usually we just ignore our anger and our jealousy, all of our difficult emotions. And because of that, they yell louder and louder, and they become a strong force in our life. They start directing our life, and we create suffering for ourselves and suffering for others. So the practice of stopping, looking inside, is to understand the roots of our anger. And then we can stop feeding that anger and that suffering. So this is all the practice of collective awakening. Because when you do it for yourself, it means you change the environment around you. You start to notice that the people who come into your life are also kind and compassionate. You have more solidity. When someone comes to you who is angry and irritated, you don't see them as an enemy. You don't become a victim of their anger. But you understand that they are also suffering. They are also overwhelmed by their own suffering. And you give rise to compassion in your heart. That is the action of a bodhisattva. That is somebody who's building the beloved community. When we looked into this US tour and we asked ourselves what would be the theme of the tour, we put out many ideas and kept coming back to that one, the beloved community. So you see many monks and nuns here. So we are on a US tour. It's kind of a quiet US tour. But it's very important for us because we get to see each other. We get to come from Deer Park, from Magnolia Grove, and be together. And somehow it's a different feeling to be in the different monasteries. Just to play together, to camp out in the tents together, or have a new roommate and drink tea in the morning together. So we get to learn from each other and see how each center is growing and to become its own beautiful flower. Like this morning, I had to learn how to do a new touching the earth for the incense offering. Because here at Blue Cliff, we do one for our teacher, Trung Quang Nhật Han, Master Trung Quang Nhật Han in Vietnamese. And I didn't get the melody quite right. But that's the beauty of beloved community, is that we have compassion and we get to learn from each other. We get to do it together. So this is a very beautiful practice. And we get to also help each other when we're stuck in our own ideas. This teaching on nothing is born, nothing dies. Has a third part. Tout se transforme. Everything transforms. Everything transforms. So, this idea of a self, we can transform it. We can let go of this idea. Self. There's also the idea of a person. This self, this kind of narrative. We think of a person I was sitting, this wonderful Leah, we were talking the other day. Leah Nomi Green is a wonderful poet. I really recommend her book of poetry. We were sitting the other day and you mentioned sometimes when we give a name to a plant, it's like we're not interested in it anymore. Like you're very curious. You're looking at the leaf shape. Is it a beech? Is it a birch? And then suddenly when you know, then it's like, okay, I know it. And all that wonder, that joy that you experience in not knowing suddenly disappears in the knowing. So the same is true in the concept of a person. As soon as we know, oh, that person, she's a lawyer at a firm in Manhattan, this is her name, this is where she grew up, it's like, okay, then we're not interested anymore. But that curiosity, when we meet somebody new and we enter their world, their way of understanding things, and we feel so, like it's so interesting, so compelling. What happens when we just reduce it to an idea or a concept? Our wonder evaporates. Our capacity to be open and to learn disappears. So this process of naming things, like this is that person, has a sense of closing the door. Now we know. Now it's not something to look at with wonder anymore. So we let go of the idea of our own narrative of ourselves. We also let go of our closed ideas about a person, someone else. Living being is the third. We treat minerals in the earth like inert objects and rip gaping holes in the surface of the earth to extract the elements we need to produce cell phones, to produce batteries for cars. We drill for oil. So all of this greed for energy has produced, and treating the earth as an inert, non-living thing, has led to the situation that we find ourselves in. And so when we let go of that idea of a living being, and we start to treat everything with reverence and respect, not only living beings, so-called living beings, but we see that there's life in the oil, that the ancient trees that have been transformed into petroleum deep in the surface of the earth have a kind of life, a kind of vitality, a kind of wonder. Then we give rise to respect and admiration. And we again, our mind becomes open again and free. And the fourth concept that we help to let go of is the concept of a lifespan. When I was a kid growing up nearby here in Connecticut, I had this science book which had a C-3PO and R2-D2 on the cover, because Star Wars was just really popular back in the early 80s. And so it was a book about scientific facts about the universe. And I turned to this one page and it said, the sun is 5 billion years old, and it will continue to burn for another 5 billion years, and then it will become a red giant and engulf the earth, and everything will be burnt to a crisp. I don't think it said that, but that's what I imagined. And I had so much fear and terror in that moment. I thought, gosh, we have to build a spaceship and get everyone off the earth before the sun engulfs it and burns everything to a crisp. I was really afraid. I had my first experience of kind of depression after reading that page in the book. So to come back to the question I asked at the beginning, when parents come to me and say, when can I tell my son or my daughter about death? This is what we all fear, right? That suddenly they will get in contact with a concept, and everything that they feel is solid and stable in their life will just evaporate. And it seems like the world seems like a very scary place, very intimidating. That's what happened to me. But my first feeling was, I want to save everybody. I want to get everybody on a spaceship, kind of like Noah's Ark or something, and then sail off, and we'll find another planet where we're far enough away from this red giant of a sun so that we don't all get burnt to a crisp. And that's very natural, because we want to help everyone. We want to save everyone. We want to continue to live in a beautiful community where there's love and there's understanding. And that's what I found myself in as a child. And this fact of the sun, it didn't matter that I couldn't imagine what 5 billion years is. Maybe it's when I'm a teenager. I don't know. But no matter how many, because I cannot visualize that. I just know that the sun is going to burn us to a crisp, and I want to save everyone. So what is the Buddha's answer to Subhuti's question? How can a son or daughter of good families who want to give rise to the highest, most fulfilled, awakened mind, what should they rely on, and what should they do to master their thinking? The Buddha said to Subhuti, "This is how the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas master their thinking. However many species of living beings there are, whether born from eggs, from the womb, from moisture, or spontaneously, whether they have form or do not have form, whether they have perceptions or do not have perceptions, or whether it cannot be said of them that they have perceptions or that they do not have perceptions, we must lead all these beings to the ultimate nirvana so that they can be liberated." So that mindset, that fundamental, as a child, that beautiful thought, I want to save everyone. I don't want anyone to come to any harm. That is a deep intention that we hold in our heart as a bodhisattva. And it's very practical. When you see how somebody treats a snail or a frog on the path, you know how they're practicing. When you hear somebody use kind words to their loved one, that is someone who's practicing this deep, deep intention to bring about collective awakening. And then comes the lightning bolt. And when this innumerable, immeasurable, infinite number of beings has become liberated, we do not, in truth, think that a single being has been liberated. And when this innumerable, immeasurable, infinite number of beings has become liberated, we do not, in truth, think that a single being has been liberated. Why is this so? If Subhuti, a bodhisattva, holds on to the idea that a self, a person, a living being, or a lifespan exists, that person is not a true bodhisattva. So our action comes from unconditional love. We don't have any expectation. Our act of kindness, of generosity, is not based on a concept, an expectation. What am I going to get out of this? We're not trying to just build our network of influence or have a bigger group of friends, pat each other on the back. Our act of generosity is entirely from a place of pure love. Pure love. That is our training. That is a mind training the Buddha proposed. That we learn how to save everyone without having the thought that we save even one person. And that is what we practice as monks and nuns. That is what I see in my brothers and sisters every day, that kind of kindness. I don't look and say, oh, why is she hanging out with him? Or why is she, not talking to me? Or, but I look and I see the kindness. I see all these acts. I don't have a mind which is, I practice to transform my mind of discrimination. We call it the wisdom of non-discrimination. It comes up sometimes, but we remind each other, and then we smile to it, and we say, no, that's also in our human nature. But we see that when we act in that way, we are basing it on these ideas, these concepts. And then that intention becomes, turns into suffering. And our way of even being generous might have a hook in it because it's based on a concept. So we want to save all living beings, and one lifetime is not enough. So we overcome the idea of a lifespan. So we think from this point I was born, and then somewhere over here there's another point where I die. And underneath this line there is nothing, nothingness. And so from nothing, suddenly, we pass into somethingness. This is at the level of our conceptual thinking. And then we live our life, and then we start to decline, and we eventually die and go back to nothingness. So I think the fear as a parent of speaking with our child about death is that we think we're looking at it in birth and death in these very simplistic terms, and we don't have the deeper insight that this body, these feelings, these perceptions are just transformation. So Tai invited us to look at a cloud. We see a beautiful cloud in the sky. I see one passing. And that cloud eventually becomes the rain. And when it becomes the rain, we think, what happened to my beautiful cloud? I miss my cloud. I want the cloud back. It was so fluffy, and the shape was so special. It's because we don't see that the cloud has become the rain that has nourished the plants and the flowers and brought water into the soil so that the rivers could run. When we see that the cloud has never died. It has only continued as a river, the stream that runs down into the ocean. That becomes a new cloud. We don't have any difficulty actually seeing that. Right? We learn about it in earth science and we observe it. But somehow we have a lot of difficulty with this body. We have trouble to see that our own body is also a cloud, and that it also has of the nature to transform, and that is a beautiful experience. And just like we learned from Lavoisier, nothing is born and nothing dies. Everything transforms. So we continue through our thinking, through our speech, through our actions. The beloved community of Dr. King continues right here at Blue Cliff Monastery. It is very concrete. It is not theoretical. This is not just concepts. This is living reality. We are all here practicing mindfulness together. That is a direct continuation of Dr. King's vision, of Tai's vow to continue that vision. So as we go deeper into this teaching, this fourth Dhamma seal of Plum Village, no birth, no death, we start to see the world with new eyes. We no longer have fear about the death of this body, because we see that every moment we are being continued. And so we want to bring as much mindfulness. Tai always said, there cannot be too much mindfulness. How can there be too much mindfulness? We can always go deeper in our practice of being aware of our thinking, our speech, and our actions, understanding the root of our thinking, learning how to how to grow our compassion and our understanding and transform our anger, our fear, and anxiety into beautiful flowers, the flowers of our action. So I finish here, and I wish you a lot of joy on your path. I hope that all of you can take one practice home with you. We found that if you try to take everything, it probably won't work. If you get overwhelmed, you think, oh, it's so wonderful at Blue Cliff. I wish I could just do mindful walking, mindful eating, mindful breathing every day like that at home. But after a week or two, you get overwhelmed and you're back in your old habits. So try to take just one practice, maybe mindful walking 2 or 3 times a week, or every day for 5 to 10 minutes from your car to your office, or if you're working from home, you can go for a walk in the neighborhood, or mindful eating. But pick one practice and stay with it, because in that practice, you will see all the practices. And to commit to that one practice is much more effective, I think, than trying to do everything. And and in that practice, we also find the Sangha, the beloved community. When you look into your mindful step, or you eat that carrot with mindfulness, you feel the Sangha around you, just like you're in the dining hall here at Blue Cliff. And then you become a transformation body of the beloved community. You continue it in your house, with your family, with your colleagues at work. We have the wake-up schools. How many of us are teachers here again, or educators? I know a lot of you came for the educators bit of the retreat. So you are also being continued in your teaching and all of your actions. It may not look like it sometimes because the kids are bored or whatever, your colleagues ignore you, but when you're happy and joyful, people are paying attention. They're looking at the side of their eye, kind of like, what is he doing? Why is he so happy? He's not on drugs. Why is he so happy? They want to know. They're very curious. Everybody wants to know. And in that way, you continue Tai, you continue Dr. King and the beloved community. So thank you for your deep listening, and I wish you best on your path of practice. We'll finish with 3 sounds of the bell.
Hello, take your time to release